Well, joining us in the studio as promised, a little late, but we can understand he's a busy man. Congressman James Trafficant.
Don't call me names, big guy.
How you doing, James?
You know, I could be doing better. Judge Leslie Wells, and she's a very nice lady. She kept us a little bit late tonight, and I think the government knew I was coming on your show, and they're afraid of the power of your show and how many people you reach. So I can't, and I'm not trying to influence any jury, but I think the prosecution brought up a number of about 9 or 10 points to keep us there for almost 45 extra minutes. So they must know I'm coming on your program, and they must fear your power. Or is it Kim?
They try. I don't know what. Yeah, they try to stop you from coming on the Trivsonno show.
No. I don't. They didn't do that. Yeah. They had some serious points they brought up. They're afraid of death of the tapes I have on witnesses. You know, they say they have no tapes, and all these people a lot of them have 25 years they'd be facing in jail and end up with probation testifying against me. Now, hear me out.
All right, well, before I hear you out about the case, I promised you I'd let you talk real quick here about the steel bill you introduced today.
I'd like to talk about two things before I do that.
All right, go ahead.
Because we've got the quantified results of legislation that I authored for years relative to IRS. Mm-hmm. Number one, I passed IRS legislation that allows you to now sue the IRS up to $1 million if they abuse you. The first case was up in, I think, Derry, New Hampshire, where a woman sued the IRS for $1 million, and they settled out of court for $500,000. Where did you ever hear that?
Never.
Now, in the last reform bill, the IRS was vehemently against the trafficant provisions. Before 98 reform bill passed, if you went, Kim, to a civil tax court trial, and the IRS said you owed $100,000, or Big Mike, you owed $90,000, you had to prove that you did not owe $90,000. For example, they said you were seen at Hialeah, and you're a well-known national figure becoming a big sportsman, and that they heard you earned $90,000. You had to prove you didn't earn that $90,000. What the trafficking language did was change the burden of proof. When they take you in a civil tax court now, in America, you're innocent until proven guilty, and now you're innocent until proven guilty. The second one was they could say, well, Mike, you couldn't prove you were innocent. Now they come out and they seize your home. The trafficking bill also deals with seizure. Now, I want to give you the results of that because I am very proud, because I worked 12 years and had almost a fist fight with Dan Rostenkowski over this. Oh. Number one, wage attachments dropped from $3.1 million to $500,000 the first year. Property liens dropped from $688,000 to $161,000, Mike. But now listen to this. Seizures of family-owned homes dropped from 10,067 to 51 homes in all of America, 50 states.
Wow. That is something to
when
be
they
proud
had
of.
to prove it, Mike.
Yeah.
Why is America afraid of our government? That's part of my case. The second thing is today, and I'm hoping that the Cleveland legislators get behind it, and I hope that you push it, Mike. You know the steel industry is decimated.
Sure.
And President Bush, I have to give him credit. He's looked at tariffs now, and Clinton wouldn't even look at it. Let's tell it like it is. And this China thing, they're now taking $120 billion a year free, net clear. We have a $360 billion a year trade deficit. We're arming the next superpower that may someday attack us, and they won't go at us with a plane at the TWA Center or the Trade World Center. They'll send an ICBM at Cleveland, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco. Believe me, I'm very concerned. The trafficking bill, and I wrote an accompanying letter to the president. It's filed today. It's yet to get a number. Probably some chairman will steal the idea and put his name on it, but you'll be the first to hear it. You're the first to have this release. It says that any proceeds that are gained from tariffs or any illegal dumping, when proven, shall be banned. The countries who illegally dump steel. Now, illegally dumping means if steel costs $100 a ton to produce and they sell in America for $80, they're dumping it below their production cost, destroying our economy. So the trafficking bill says first, if there's a legal dumping of steel, that country so charged shall be banned from exporting steel to America. Second part is as follows. Any proceeds taken from the tariffs must be used for the steelworkers and their families in one of two ways or both. First of all, it amends the Trade Adjustment Assistance Act. The Trade Adjustment Assistance Act does not provide for medical benefits. So 50% of the funds that are received from tariffs, half of it goes towards medical benefits, to extend medical insurance benefits to unemployed steel workers who are impacted because of this illegal or this glut of imports. And the other part of it goes for extending of unemployment benefits and pension guarantee benefits for those who are pensioners in the steel industry. So what has to be done now is not just these tariffs are needed, it's why put them into the general fund. And finally, Mike, the trafficking bill says that in addition to those funds, the bill is not limited to that, and Congress could make out of the general fund appropriations to it. But those tariffs cannot go into the general fund and be used for the post office or to be used for the Army or to be used for anything except for the steel workers. But it says we can also add to those collected monies that are produced from tariffs and this action taken by the president and apply it to help our unemployed steelworkers. So that's basically an up-to-date, Mike.
All right, Congressman, we don't have a lot of time, so I want to ask a million questions. If you could shorten up your answers, I would appreciate it.
I'm going to do that.
Thank you. You're
Am I on cross here? Are you on cross?
No.
What are we in court?
I just want to hear.
Don't get out of hand.
I'm
and
not,
don't call
no,
me names.
I
love you. I always have.
I know. I just want the people to hear you, okay, and understand you.
Go
That's
right
all.
ahead.
I mean, number one, how long is your term left? How much do you have left on your term?
Well, I have till January is the beginning next year of the new term, so I'm in Congress. But there's been a redistricting, and they broke up my district.
That was my question.
Yeah, they're trying to get rid of me.
They broke up your district, so now where do you run? I mean, how do you do this now?
I am running as an independent because how could I run in a primary while I'm on trial and people are pointing fingers at me? So I have to run now as an independent, which means I will not be on the ballot in the primary.
Of what district?
In the 17th, which would cover City of Youngstown.
I thought they broke up the 17th district.
They did. The 17th, as it used to be,
is
now
smaller
been separated.
Okay.
No. What they
Bigger?
did is they moved it west. They have Youngstown, most of Trumbull County, Portage County, and some of Summit County.
Did they take that? They moved that district so they would take your voters away from you?
Yeah, they split my voters in half. I was probably so strong that they ran a poll and felt that if I was convicted, I could do a better job than any other congressman who was on Capitol Hill. I've passed a lot of legislation. I've done a lot down here, Mike.
All right, the many questions people want me to ask you, okay? Why you're facing 63 years in charges?
More than that. I think it's about 80.
80 years in charges.
And after what I just said to the judge and the prosecutors today, it might be 100. Who knows?
What did you say? Can you tell us?
I told them exactly what was on my mind. I told them, number one, I'm not afraid of them. And number two, I'm not an attorney. And most attorneys are scared to death of them. And number three, they're not going to intimidate me. And they're either going to put me in jail or I'm going to put them in jail because there's a lot of prosecutorial misconduct in this case that I've been filing. And let me tell you something. Jefferson made a statement once, Mike. Beware of the appointments of federal judges for lifetime terms because they could take the Constitution and mold it like clay in their hands. God bless juries. And he made that statement because the only way a federal judge can lose their job is resign, die, or have the government get you out. We got a mess on our hands.
I'm going through it with you. I'm suing the tobacco company, and they want to move it to federal court because of the federal judges, the tobacco companies.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'd watch yourself. And let me tell you why. Nothing against the judges. Judge Wells is actually a gracious, beautiful lady. And this has nothing to do with Judge Wells. But I'm going to tell you this. Even the judges are afraid of the FBI, the IRS, the Treasury Department. Why should we be afraid of our government?
That's a great question.
We run our government, don't we?
No, that's a great question. Why should we fear our government?
But do we?
We do.
Listen to the testimony on Capitol Hill about the Trafficant Amendment. The IRS come in and says, if you pass the Trafficant Amendment, you'll kill our voluntary system. Because our voluntary system is predicated on, listen to the word I use, Mike, quote unquote, fear. I said, what voluntary system? If we don't file a tax return, you come out and seize our rubber ducky. I said, who do you think you're talking to here? The Rotary? Now, the new trafficking bill that they're all hot about, 1 second, eliminates the 16th Amendment. stops all income taxes and imposes a 15% final retail sales tax.
Yeah, it'll never happen.
Listen to me. They said the burden of proof will never change. I am telling you on the Trivsonno show, one of the top shows in Ohio.
In the world.
In the world. I'm telling you this. 12 years to change the burden of proof. There will be a flat tax in America, and there will be a consumption tax. I'm going to tell you why. We reward people to stay home. If you don't work, you get a check. If you work, you get hit over the head and pay taxes. We should be rewarding people to work. Under my system, 15% exempt up to the poverty level. Even that dope dealer that buys a coat is going to pay his tax. Harvard did a study, Mike, and they said 24% of the cost of the Cavalier made in Lordstown, Ohio, is due to the tax code. They said if you pass a flat consumption, I'm not talking about a value added. This is final retail sales.
I understand.
And like a garage sale, you can have as much as 4 garage sales. If they don't gross more than $10,000, you don't even have to report it. There's no more reporting. There's no more audits.
It makes too much sense.
There's no more IRS.
It makes too much sense.
It's going to pass.
It makes too much sense.
Look at me, Mike.
It makes too much sense.
If you take that attitude
yes.
with the powerful audience you have,
right.
and you start looking at it seriously, we should be rewarding people to work. I've never had anybody ask me, Jim, get me welfare. They said, Jim, get me a job. Think about it.
Yeah, hold on, Mr. Trafficant. All right, right back in the studio with Congressman James Trafficant.
Don't call me names, Mike.
I'm not.
You know, I'm here with Kim, you know. I came to see her, and if the listening audience knew how pretty she was, they would want to hear more from her.
Come on now.
That's the truth.
Keep it going. No.
And I might keep it going.
Take
but
that
anyway,
ladybug, Paul. Wait a minute now. I got a million questions.
Go ahead.
How come no lawyer?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Why are you representing yourself?
Tell me a lawyer to beat him. Name one.
I don't know. Jerry Gold.
Name one.
I don't know.
There's only been one
Cochran.
One citizen in the United States of America to defend himself pro se without being an attorney and beat the government in a RICO case. One. And that's been Jim Trafficant. Now, if I did it once, where am I going to get the money to hire a Johnny Cochran? He'd be a good one. Or Spence. And there's some good ones from my area. I don't have the money to hire them. But I also know this. One of the problems you have, you go to court, and I'm not putting lawyers down, just make sure that if they really want Mike Trivsonno, and you're represented by a lawyer, that lawyer is going to be audited every year, and the FBI is going to look at him every year.
Seriously?
And make sure that lawyer isn't selling your ass out. Now, if I can't be more clear than that, I'm telling you the way it is. That's why I'm handling my case. I trust Jim Trafficant.
All right. How about all these guys that are coming forward and said they did favors for you?
One guy was subject to 25 years, ended up pleading to an information count, and got probation.
Which guy was that?
I'm not going to mention names on the air.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Another guy was subject to losing everything he had, 20 years in jail. He's going to wear a wrist bracelet. So everyone is testifying against me.
Our government
has immunity for some criminal action they've taken.
That's wrong. That's wrong. That's
now, there are a couple people
where
who
I agree with you. That's totally wrong. Because those people will say anything to save their ass.
Michael, there are a couple of people who testified against me that are disgruntled staffers who are mad at me because I hired someone they didn't like, and they're vindictive. And I'm not going to say a bad word. And here's what I'm saying to you, too, Mike.
So all these people are wrong.
This is a fact. No. Here's what I'm saying to you. I will not let the government separate me from them. There's not one person testifying against me that is not my friend. And listen to this crazy statement. I don't hold it against them. They have families. They're looking at 20 years in jail. That government squeezes you, buddy. They squeeze you. And they look out for themselves. So what I have to do is I have to beat him, Mike. But one advantage I have over an attorney, no attorney knows exactly what his client really did. I know everything Jim Trafficant did, and I know everything somebody else said I did. And Jim Trafficant may not be a lawyer, but I wasn't born yesterday, and I'm not doing too bad in court.
Congressman, I got to ask you a point-blank question.
Come with it.
Okay. There's been speculation, and people say that you as a congressman, you've been around the wrong people, the undesirables, the underworld, the criminal world. They want to know why you would associate yourself.
Mike, I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. Youngstown, Ohio has been painted as Mobtown, USA. Now, I just want to tell you this. Youngstown, Ohio is like a social club compared to Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Youngstown paid dues to Cleveland and Pittsburgh families. The trouble in Youngstown was, and no one wants to believe it, the key to Youngstown was they had complete acquiescence. They owned the FBI. Now, am I on this House floor? Am I subject to be sued? Chief Stanley Peterson became head of the FBI, then later became chief of police of Youngstown at the direction of mob, just died. I had been working on him for years. They would never investigate him. Agents of the FBI on the payroll, IRS on a payroll. They were there for 50 years. There was never an arrest until Jim Trafficant ran for sheriff. Then who'd they arrest? Jim Trafficant. Now, they had a confession and 4 hours of tape. Are you visiting with me here on the air? Am I in jail? I was able to prove they had a false confession. The agent that brought the case was on the payroll of the mob. Now look, Youngstown is a great place to live, but I want you to read the book Black Mass about the Boston FBI director now who's saying, look, I did business with these mobsters because my supervisors told me to. Now he's under indictment. If you read through that case, just remember this. The number one informant in the history of America was a man named Valachi. Remember Valachi?
Sure.
Number two was Lombardo from Cleveland. Lombardo said that Joseph Naples and Jimmy Prado told he and Licavoli at a restaurant in Euclid that they killed Charles Carabia. And Jimmy Prado and Joey Naples were never charged with the murder of Charles Carabia. And he told that to a Senate panel in the United States where Senator John Glenn was sitting and asking questions. Now, what I'm telling you is Youngstown was owned. The FBI office was owned. The IRS office was owned. What made Youngstown famous was Cleveland and Pittsburgh could have meetings in Youngstown. They had no fear of any oversight. But now they elected a guy that was a little unusual. His name was Trafficant. And believe me, the mob was destroyed when I got elected sheriff. I was indicted by the mob. Now, let me tell you how they worked.
So
listen to me.
Well, wait a minute. I got to go to news here. So, in other words, real quick, you weren't
in the first case.
You weren't affiliated with the mob. You were going after the mob.
I used the mob's money to beat the mob.
All right, hold on, Congressman. Here's Carmen Angelo with the news.
That's telling it like it is.
Well, Congressman James Trafficant has joined us here in the studio. Congressman, I want to back up for 1 second, okay?
You're always backing up. That's your trouble.
I know.
You got to go forward. I know. You're the man.
I never
I
take
even
a
try and
stand.
catch you on the air. When I get out of
listen.
Washington early, I try and catch him. That's no kidding. There's certain parts of your station is so strong. I'm able to pick up the Cavs game. I try and pick up Mike when I can. And I have to say this. I think you're one of the top-rated shows in all of Ohio, and I think WTAM may be the strongest station in all of Ohio.
Well, thank you.
I mean that. I've done some shows up here. I've hosted them.
Right.
I think you have great management. I don't know if the people know of your new facilities. I used to love being by the lakes, but there's not a finer complex for a radio outfit in all of America. No. This is something else.
Let me back up in the truck. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Let me back up in the truck.
Don't start.
I know we only have a certain amount of time, and I'm not being short
Don't
with you.
start.
Okay? No, I'm not starting. Let me back up. The guys that were, all these witnesses that were against you that we've heard about, okay, that you've done favors for, had all plea bargained? Had criminal sentences reduced?
Every key figure in this case has struck a plea agreement with the government.
What do you think of plea bargains?
Every charge. Well, number one, I think, look.
What do you think of...
First of all, let's look at RICO.
Okay.
Racketeering Influence Corruption Act. They're using that now to go after things that are, what? Ridiculous. Even the fella at Notre Dame, the professor who, in fact, was the author that Congress used to, in fact, develop legislation, now says RICO's being used and misused tremendously.
Well,
I'm on a RICO. Who am I conspiring with? The Welcome Wagon?
Right.
What the hell's going on here?
How do they charge a congressman with racketeering?
Who they racketeer with?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Who they conspire with?
Well, what do they say when
Well, how do you like this one case recently adjudicated? Two fellas are tried together for conspiracy. One's acquitted and one's convicted. Now, they both conspired, but one was acquitted and one's convicted. Now, beam me up. You know you had to hear that. But what I'm saying is, look, I don't want to make it sound like I'm a choir boy here either.
No.
There are things you do, and there are things you've done in your life that you may not have had any intent to break the law, and you never even thought of it as being a law. But you get some. Let me tell you what one witness told me on a tape. This witness said, if I wasn't a principal and knew what happened in this transaction, and I was on the jury, after the FBI showed me the paper trail, I'd find you guilty, Jim. Now, you can't believe the paper trail they're putting out. But now listen to this, Mike. In the summer, I was supposed to be involved in conspiracy to commit murder. Remember that? Headlines?
Yeah.
In the summer, they had fingerprints on all traffickants, all this money. Now they had announced that they have no fingerprints. Now there's no murder charges. Where's the murder charge? What they did, they're smart. They tanked the voir dire. The voir dire is where you pick the jury. And then no one was allowed from Mahoning, Trumbull, or Columbiana County, my peers. She shut them out. Now, here I am being tried by people that heard somewhere along the way, man, this congressman must really be something else. Man, it conspired to kill somebody. Man, this congressman, they have his fingerprints over everything. You see what I'm talking about?
What happened to the murder charge?
There was never no indictment for murder. And they supposedly had a tape.
Well,
where's the tape, Mike?
How can they legally throw out into the media, into the public eye, that you're charged with murder?
Let me tell you
and
how
then
it
retract it, and
let me tell you.
Would you have a lawsuit there?
Let me tell you how it happened. When it's over, I'm going to sue their assets, man. Believe me. Let me tell you how it happened. They had an FBI agent go to a person who knows me. And they get this person to make some comments, and I noticed you just got a note in here because you're a big shot. They even extended your time.
Well, they extended your time, not mine.
All right, listen to this. I'll come on your show whenever I can, Mike. Mm-hmm. I think the world of your show and TAM, and I mean that. Now, let me say this.
Oh, by the way, so you know what we're talking about, we'll go till 7:30 with Congressman James Trafficant, and then Kevin Keene will take over from Beef O'Brady's at 7:30.
Okay. I don't know those guys. I'm sure they're great, but they can't match you and Kim, and that's the way it is. That's the way it is. But anyway, Kim, if you want to jump in, jump in. I talk.
Yeah, anytime, Kim. You want to?
Yeah, sure.
But let me
I'll just
say
wedge
this.
myself right in here.
Let me say this about the murder. They play the woman the tape. Woman's distraught. They put her 2 dogs in a kennel for $750. Fly her 4 times back and forth from Kentucky. Take her to grand jury. When she testifies truthfully at the grand jury, now she hates me. She's on the impression I killed her. She said, well, I'm not mentioned on a tape, but they mentioned the guy from Washington making speeches in Florida.
Why would you want to kill this woman?
I didn't want to kill no woman. Do you think I'd kill somebody?
Well, why'd they say you wanted to kill this woman?
Okay, the point is, this is how cool they were. She says, well, who should I be afraid of? You already arrested this man. They said, you want to hear the tape? She said, well, do I have to be afraid of Trafficant? They said to her, you want to hear the tape again? Now, no indictment. But what they tell her is one way to protect yourself, to make sure nobody hurts you, is to go public. And you'll scare anybody from hurting you. So what does she do? She goes public. Now, I'm up for election. Toughest election of my life. Both of my opponents raised more money than me. And I got a murder charge with a woman saying I heard a tape. The congressman's going to kill me. How'd you like to be running an election? But then listen to this, Mike.
So now there's no more murder charge.
No, but I also won the election. So what's it tell you? People know I wasn't involved in no murder. But what were they doing? Why didn't they bring the charge, Mike? Where's the tape? Where's the fingerprints? Where's the murder charge? You see what I'm trying to say?
I understand.
Look, here's what I am saying.
I got a million more questions.
Listen carefully. As the only American to ever defeat them, I have a bullseye on my back. And I am the #1 target of the United States Justice Department. And I'm going to tell you something. They have become so powerful, these bureaucrats, America fears them. And that's wrong in America. And America better take the country back. Believe me, Mike. We have a serious problem in America.
You afraid to go to jail?
You know what? There's an old saying. Indians feared, Native American Indians feared only one rival. And that rival was a fellow rival Indian that was not afraid to die. I am not afraid to die. I'm not acting cocky. I'm afraid to death. Wouldn't you be? But you know what? I made him a plea agreement offer today. Give me $5 million, and I'll let you guys off the hook. And I also told him, if you don't beat me, your ass is going to be transferred to Mingo Junction. They're starting to get some pressure too, Mike. They need to get a conviction.
How long before the prosecution rests, would you say?
They're talking about early next week. I'm starting.
And then it's your turn.
I'm starting to subpoena witnesses. Yes.
Yeah.
But
right.
let me tell you what.
What can you give
I've
us?
been holding my own pretty good.
I understand. Can you give us some idea what's in store when it's your turn? Or can't you give anything away?
Actually, what I have is 10 counts. I technically have 10 trials within a trial.
Can you beat all 10?
Now listen carefully. I want you to imagine a painter has no success. So he gets 10 little containers, like you might find little jelly containers or mustard. There's little plastic cups. He puts 10 different colors of oil paints and says, I've had it. And he throws it against the wall for an abstract. That's what they've done. All they need is one, Mike. And Jim Trafficant is a convicted felon. They only need one count. I am in one hell of a tough spot.
Is that why they threw 10 counts at you then? Because if enough.
Let me tell you what.
Hoping only one would stick.
Idea. Listen to this.
Yeah.
I've already identified 52 FBI agents involved in my case. 4 federal prosecutors. And I haven't even started how many IRS agents and Treasury agents.
Do you have proof with these FBI agents and these prosecutors?
Hey, they've been brought out on trial. The one guy identified 29.
Do you have tapes on any of these people?
I have tapes on some of the people, and I have tapes concerning many of the people. And I have other documents. But remember this.
So is it safe to say when it's your turn in this trial that some people are going to be blown out of the water with the evidence you have?
Yeah, I think I'm going to beat the shit out of them.
Are you afraid? Are you afraid for your life? Are you afraid that somebody might come after you?
You know what bothers me? And here's the thing that bothers me, and I think Cleveland area needs to hear this from me. There was a man named John Deminick. He was convicted of being Ivan the Terrible. No one in America would look at his case. Family came to me. I looked into it. And Jewish Americans around the country hated me for that. And they felt that I must have some anti-Semite blood just to look into it. But they didn't know that I'd received documents that clearly proved to me that there was some misconduct. My investigation, basically with the family, Ed Nishnik and John Jr., we discovered the documents that the Israeli Supreme Court taught America a lesson about justice. They literally turned him over to me at the airport on an El Al flight to bring back home. Now, my problem that I'm concerned about is many people have held that against me. But you know what? When you're stripped bone in America, you're all by yourself, and everybody thinks you're the worst there is. There's still a Bill of Rights in the Constitution, Michael, and it should be standing right next to us. And it should be ours, because it's our country. And if we allow them to put an innocent man to death for being Ivan, for having killed 1 million Jews in Treblinka, which he didn't do. The man turned out to be 9 years older, black hair, taller, long scar on neck. And then I even had a photograph before the Israeli Supreme Court said, take him home. Now you know Deminick has now been what? He's been convicted of a fake passport or fake. Every Ukrainian that came over, they did that to those forms, or they'd have been shipped back to the Soviets, and the KGB would have lined them up and shot them. I think they're covering their assets, what they did to Deminick.
All right, but my question is,
but there's no right. Let me say
this. Are you afraid for the day? Do you fear for your life?
At this point, you know what I've done? This might sound crazy to you, but the only way I can be strong enough to look them in the eye is to forfeit my future, to forfeit my life. I don't give a damn. I'm a warrior that's prepared to die. Now bring it on. Now let me tell you, they have 3 prosecutors, and they're the best, maybe the best in the country. This guy, Bernard Smith, is supremely intelligent, legally astute. Craig Morford, excellent at examining witnesses. Matthew Call, young, but being mentored by two of the best.
Are they all from Cleveland?
They're Cleveland, and they're great. And they have an IRS agent that's going to be sitting in for summary, and he'll be sitting at the table with him. And I'm just there by myself.
What's the IRS agent there for?
Well, he's going to summarize all the numbers and everything and show how I violated tax laws and all that business. And I'm going to tell him to shove his tax law up his W-2. And the bottom line is this. I don't like the IRS. I don't like the FBI. I can't believe in America we killed 80-some people in Waco. Now, I don't care how you feel about that. That guy went jogging every morning. They could have arrested that guy out jogging, and there would have been no one killed down there. Ruby Ridge, why did they settle for $5 million to the Weaver family when he killed his wife, holding her child, shot her right between the eyes? Touch your eyeglasses, Mike, right? That's where she was shot by a marksman. It was called accidental. What the hell's going on here?
Congressman, have you let your people down?
My people are still being served. My people have a congressman that's very active. And you know what? In every case that I'm being tried for, it's for helping companies that they said did favors for me. But you know what? Some of these companies won't admit it. These companies were told, if you don't testify, we're going to charge your daughter. We're going to charge you with perjury in another case, in this one case. Everybody, they put extreme pressure. Extreme pressure, Michael. If you haven't gone through it, you don't understand it. When they want somebody. Now, look, I'm not here acting like, St. Joseph, St. Michael, the Archangel. But I'm going to tell you something. They spent more money on me than they spent investigating money that came from a general in the Red Army, Chinese Communist Red Army, to influence a national presidential election. Now, I'm not going to get into anything to say that to you.
You're talking about the money that came to Clinton's?
Came to the Democrat National Committee. So I'm not saying Democrat or Republican, because the Democrats, they didn't want to investigate China because of the money that come in from the Red Chinese general. Republicans, they didn't want to investigate China because they passed a free trade bill with China. So everybody's letting China go. Meanwhile, trade deficit $360 billion. Billion with a B. That means we're buying $360 billion more than we're selling as a country. Now, I want to ask you something. If Clear Channel, right here, has gross revenue of, for example, $10 million, but their expenses are $15 million, how long can they stay in business?
You looked at our books, huh? No, I'm only kidding.
No,
not long.
I know that you're a revenue producer. No, but I'm making
long.
the example.
No, not long.
And nobody's looking at it,
right.
Mike. No one's looking at the trade,
but
balance of trade.
Hey, Congressman, don't yell at me, okay? Don't scream at me. I'm going to ask a question you're not going to like,
Mike,
okay?
Listen, I'm not
Wait a
holding
minute. Have you cried wolf so many times that no one wants to believe there's a wolf out there now?
Mike, how many times have I been charged? Now, listen. What did I say? I was on national TV. I said an FBI agent in my valley raped one of my constituents. Everybody called and said, Jim, you had the greatest show. Why'd you have to say that? Now, are you ready for this? You think Jim Trafficant don't get information? They had a hearing several months ago.
For you to say that, you got to have some powerful proof.
Now, just listen. They had a sealed hearing.
Congressman, we got a break for news. We're going to stay an extra half hour.
News are important?
Commercials are more important, and we got to get some of them in, okay?
You're a revenue producer.
And I have a couple questions of my own.
I want
Wonderful.
Kim. I want to answer
But wait a minute.
Kim.
I want to hear about the FBI that supposedly raped a young lady when we
As
come
soon
back.
as we come back.
Okay? All right?
I think Kim should hear about that.
What we're going to do is stay till 7:30. Kevin Keene, we do apologize. Then the Kevin Keene Show will start at 7:30 tonight, live from Winter Haven at Beef O'Brady's. We'll be back with the Congressman. Congressman, before we took the commercial break in the news, you were talking about an FBI agent that raped or something?
Okay. As an old sheriff and understanding the law, I was informed by one of my constituents that she was concerned about the custody of her child because her husband was very powerful and she thought she'd lose custody of her child. She had been removed from her job for some mental instability problems. Under Ohio law, to compromise a woman when she is in a condition of either mental or physical disability, that is a first-degree felony. This FBI agent that she says she couldn't stand led her to believe that he was powerful enough to help her get her custody of her child. And she said she was not thrown on the ground. She didn't want her 87-year-old mother to know. And she wanted it to die right there. I didn't tape her. I didn't give her name. But the press put it all together and figured it out. So she said on the air that it was not true. But here's what I'm telling you now here. There was a sealed court hearing in Judge O'Malley's court in Cleveland, Ohio, right downtown where I am. And he admitted to digital penetration of this woman. Now, that woman's condition and under the circumstances, she was compromised. Statutorily, that is rape. You do not have to throw Kim down on the ground and force her against her will to be raped. But if Kim is concerned about custody of her child and she can't stand you, Mike, or can't stand Jim Trafficant, and I say, look, I know people and I can help you get your kid, and I maneuver and manipulate her, even though she willingly consents, that's rape. And you know what? I said it was rape. And why did they have the hearing in Cleveland? Why was it sealed? Did you know about it till I told you?
No.
Call O'Malley. Why'd they seal it? And why did they seal it till after the trafficking trial's over? Why?
I don't know. Kim, you have a question?
Yeah, actually getting back to your trial for just a second, I wanted to know more about the witnesses. Now, we had been speaking before about the witnesses having cut deals with the government before this whole thing. Are the jurors permitted to know that these people are, in essence, rats?
Well, it's not necessarily that they're rats, but you have to bring that out. And I, under cross-examination, have done that. And some of the people who testified against me, quite frankly, love me. But don't you understand? I have a tape on one witness, for example, that said all they wanted was trafficking. I got to lose all my money, go to jail for 15 years. So I said I gave trafficking a couple $1,000s. And you're going to get a wrist bracelet. You see the point I'm trying to make? I know what the government did. The government did not have a powerful case, but they put together a paper case. And they're throwing it at the wall, hoping something will stick. But so I have to bring out. So what I did, and they not caught on to it, is I talked to the one person, and I said, do you have a plea agreement? Yes. Read me what your plea agreement says, that I shall waive my right, my indictment, and make an agreement that I plead guilty to USC section blah, 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 and I write it on the board, maximum penalty 10 years. Sentence number 2, maximum penalty 10 years. Third count, maximum penalty 5 years. Now, it's true, they may not necessarily sentence them for all 25 years, but they could potentially send them maximally to 25 years in jail. I said, then now, after your plea agreement, what is your condition? He said, well, they dropped me down, and it was 37 to 47 months. Then my attorney negotiated to 27 to 37 months. And then I got a further 6 reduction level to a number 12, which is 10 to 16 months. Now, anybody knows anything about law that knows this guy is probably not even going to go to jail. But a misdemeanor is less than a year. This guy could potentially, for a 25-year sentence, end up with a count that could be less than a misdemeanor. I mean, at some particular point, you're hoping the jury understands this, that the pressure. Now, on a couple of these individuals, I have tapes. Now, the question today that was brought up, and one of the reasons I was late, is the government's trying to suppress my tapes. Now, I've already submitted 9 tapes. 9 tapes. And I'm making this commitment to the top-rated show on the top-rated radio station in Ohio. Not only WTAM, but for Kim and for Mike, the Trivsonno Show. Whether I win or lose, I am going to give those 9 tapes, plus others I have, for you to play for your audience, and then let them see what the American system of jurisprudence has turned into.
Let's say you're found guilty, and I play those tapes, and those tapes prove your innocence. Then what?
It'll have no bearing on my case, Michael. I will have already been convicted.
Whether we know an innocent man is in jail then.
But the point is, if the judge rules they're inadmissible, and the prosecution is putting up very good arguments, said these people didn't know they're being taped, Trafficant ambushed these people, they use a lot of legal language.
Well, the government doesn't know, tell people when they're being taped. They taped John Gotti. They didn't tell him.
But Gotti was a target, and they had authorization from the courts to do so. Remember this.
So the only thing you're missing then is authorization from the court?
I didn't have any authorization to tape, but
so that's why they don't want the tapes in there.
In Ohio, if one party consents to taping another, that still should be admissible. But because I am the target of this investigation, there are, to be quite honest, there are certain legal considerations, and quite frankly, I'm going to make this announcement right now. I predict that Judge Wells is going to rule with them. And the reason is going to be very clear. She will find some technicality, in my opinion, to rule with them because the government wants me. Now, I think Judge Wells is a great lady. She ran for U.S. Supreme Court, by the way, and I endorsed her in front of 2,500 people in our district. And now the prosecutor says I'm one of the most powerful men in the country. I was able to get money, $1.2 billion from my district. $1.2 billion that no one asked for but Jim Trafficant. I had a tremendous ability to move within the Congress, and I'm proud of that. And I helped keep my companies alive. Did I go back for companies that are now saying they did me favors? Yes. But was there a quid pro quo? No. Did I have intent to break the law? No. But some of them now, to embellish it, are making it look worse than it really is. And that's what's bothered me. So I have a hell of a technical fight on my hands.
What is a political favor?
Well, they're saying that certain people did work at my farm. Well, the one fellow that said he did work at my farm said he did them as favors. But then in cross-examination, he admitted that he got $1,142 check from me in the 1 year. So now I'm no dummy. They had a confession on me the first time, right? I proved that was a false confession or I wouldn't be here.
Did a jury understand that?
I had expert witnesses that proved that it was a false confession in the first trial or I wouldn't be sitting here.
Okay.
But now, with this witness, I said, did you file a tax return? He said, yes. I said, did you list $1,142 on your tax return? I said, yes. Were you paid? Yes. Did you give me any of that money back? No. I said, now, for the rest of your work, isn't it a fact that I gave you an 1856 Steinway Baby Grand, one of only two made in America, to pay off the balance? He said, yes. I said, did you have it appraised? $5,500. I said, did you put the $5,500 and show it on your next year's tax return? I said, yes. I said, now let me tell you something. Do you pay for favors? Well, he says, it was more than that. You owed me more than that. I said, quite frankly, was I honest about the piano? I said, I told you in advance, you wouldn't know to this day anything about a piano. He admitted that. I said there weren't ivory keys on it. And he said he would look for ivory keys. And if that thing had ivory keys, it might be worth $150,000. It's a museum piece. Took 6 guys to carry it out. I bought it for, I think, something like $2,000 30 years ago. First piece of furniture I bought. Didn't even have a chair to sit on. A guy, wife died, and he was moving to Florida and had this big heavy piano, and I bought it. But it didn't have the original ivory keys. But the point I'm making is...
The point you're making... Wait a minute. I'm confused here. The guy did work at the farm. You gave him a piano instead of money.
And he claimed it on his income tax.
Well, then what's the problem?
The point is, this is what I'm bringing out. People are starting to say, well, wait a minute. Why'd you claim it on your income tax? Here's what he was charged with, first of all. The one witness. He wasn't charged with doing anything with me. He was charged with backdating files. He was charged with perjury before a grand jury, obstructing justice by having his secretary backdate files because he knew I was hot and he hadn't prepared a statement. But he's a good guy, and his father and my father were friends from kids. He's a good friend of mine. But I know what they did. They won't admit it. They threatened to indict his son and involve his wife. So the point is, how could I be mad at the guy? But what I had to do, I have to defend myself.
But the bottom line is you paid the guy.
The bottom line is yes. Now, look, the other case is...
The guy did work.
One of the other cases is the guy sued me, and we settled out of court. But they say the work he did was for much more than what it was worth. So, therefore, it was a quid pro quo. This is the case where one of the witnesses said, Jim, if I didn't know what happened and I saw the paper trail they had, I'd find you guilty on the jury if I didn't know what happened. By the way, this one witness who I'm talking about then runs into me in a restaurant, the only one, beautiful guy. He said, Jim, I'm sorry. I had no choice. I was going to lose my business. So naturally, I took advantage, Mike. I said, sit down. And I had a friend with me. I started asking him questions. And I asked him a bunch of questions. We had an affidavit drawn up. And that witness heard the whole story. So I have an affidavit with a witness that knows that case. I have 2 tapes on 2 of these other witnesses.
And this, you haven't presented this yet, have you?
No, I've given them to the prosecution. They have these tapes. They want to keep them out desperately.
Once the prosecution rests, which will be soon, right?
Yes, she'll rule, and I believe that Judge Wells will rule with the prosecution. She has, in my opinion, I'm going to tell it just the way it is. I think this is an unfair system, that the prosecution, they're so strong, the judges are afraid in a hot case, I think, to go.
But when it's your turn, you can bring in the witness and the affidavit and the tapes
I can,
and everything,
but
right?
not necessarily the tapes. She might rule the tapes inadmissible because they were not consented to.
Well, how's it going to make her look if she makes those? If she doesn't allow those tapes to be played, you go to jail. I play those tapes, and it shows that you're innocent.
I'm not going to deal with that now because I'm on trial, but I'm going to say this. All of these people know me very well, and they're friends. But they admitted that they had no one wear a body mic to me. Now, do you believe that?
No.
You know they wore body mics to me. They wanted some physical evidence.
But there was nothing there they got.
Yeah, evidently they didn't have anything, so they said they didn't do it. Now, just today.
Oh, they mic everybody.
Listen to this, Michael. I don't know how much time we got. I just got a phone call over the lunch hour that one of my process servers that I pay to serve subpoenas, in my case, was being followed. And we went home, the car stopped and was taking photographs. So he backed out of the drive and followed the car. And literally had enough testicles to pull the guy up at the light. And he went over to him and says, why are you photographing my house? He rolled down the window and flashed an FBI badge and says, back off, buddy. Now I'm expecting an affidavit. And I'm going to bring it to the court's attention tomorrow. Now, I want the Speranza case, Agent Speranza, who raped one of my constituents. I want Judge O'Malley's records unsealed. If he had digital penetration with a woman who I knew at the time was under such mental stress, I'm not going to have that bullshit. That's the way it is. You don't mess with my constituents. But did I go to bat for my companies? Yes. Did I save them? Yes. Did I get money for them so that their products might make it? Yes. I busted my buns, man. One of them was a Saudi prince who screwed one of my businessmen. They showed a letter that I wrote to the King Fahd. Did I write a letter to King Fahd? You damn right I did. Because you know, under Arabian law, they told us to go to hell. And you know what I did? I recommended that they file a civil RICO against that prince, and when he comes to America, take his damn passport away. When I did that, they came to the table. I negotiated it, Mike, like I'm talking with you and Kim. And when I left the room and that case was settled for 4 times what he was willing to settle for in the beginning after they kept his men prisoners, I left, the attorneys come in and made millions. But here's what I'm telling you. I wrote to the king, and they says, here's a guy that writes to the king to help a company. He's really in bed with this guy because this guy did these things for him. No. Nobody is going to rip off any of my constituents, period.
Can I get a 30-second answer here because we're out of time?
Go ahead.
And I appreciate your time today. If worst case scenario and you don't make it through this trial,
I don't think about that.
Will the people miss you?
You know what?
Are you good for the people?
I would sound this would be a self-serving statement to say this. I have done a great job as a congressman for my people, and I have a lot of enemies that'll come up and say a lot of things. I have done a lot of great things for my people, and I'm proud of it. And let me say one thing about Youngstown, Ohio, Mike. Youngstown, Ohio is a good place to live, and it has been slandered. It has been slandered. And you know what amazes me? No offense to Cleveland, but the Cleveland bosses and the Pittsburgh bosses, they got a cut of every bit of action in Youngstown. Youngstown was like a subsidiary. TAM is the big revenue source here, but there are 5 other stations here. But the big heavy hitter is TAM. If TAM went under, this place wouldn't be able to pay the rent on this establishment. What I'm trying to tell you is Youngstown's reputation, the federal government was responsible for it. They owned not just the politicians, they owned the FBI, they owned the IRS. Never an arrest with 50 years presence of IRS and FBI in Youngstown until I ran for sheriff. Now I want you to think, you're an astute guy, and I'm going to tell you right now, they feared me, and they still fear me. And I'm going to close this out by saying this. This trial, CNN said was 20 million to 1. I'm going to give you my opinion. Are you ready, Kim?
I'm ready.
It's a horse race. And they better stay up late and study, or they'll be practicing in Mingo Junction.
Well, we all know that bet horses, any horse can win. So good luck to you.
Quit betting.
Hey.
You want another count on me?
Yeah.
You're out of control, Trivsonno.
No.
Thank you and Kim and Paul and Carmen and all the guys and Kevin and Marty. And you have a great, great station. I love TAM.
And don't forget those tapes.
You have a commitment from Jim Trafficant. Have you ever known me to back down?
Nope.
Did you ask me to once host for you when you couldn't be here?
Yep.
Did I do it?
Yep.
Did your ratings go up?
Yep.
Didn't hurt you, did it?
Nope.
Well, it wasn't no Trivsonno, though.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right, guys.
Good
will
luck
you
to you.
appeal if you lose?
I won't have any chance with any judges on appeal.
Okay.
But who knows what I'll do.
Okay.
Congressman, thank you.
Get them, Indians.
Good night.